Let me just ask a couple of questions. You know, my friend Mr. Castro talked about the fact that we do not have a ambassador at large, but Mark Walker was nominated in June of 2025. And we all know how frustrated we get with the United States Senate. They put holds on various nominees and as well as on bills and legislation. I am the one who wrote the law to create the special envoy for combating anti-Semitism, and the ambassador at large there, Yehuda Kaplan, he was held up and it was a bipartisan bill I did. He was nominated, and he sat over in the Senate for seemingly an eternity before he has been confirmed, so he's now on the job. So there is that problem of the Senate. I know, with all due respect, Sam, you served there, but one person could put a hold on it, and then that can have the capability of just stopping everything in its tracks. So, I think Congressman Walker would have been a great ambassador at large. I do hope that there's a replacement, for his nomination ASAP. I would also point out that, I was here in this room when we did the bill, the law, Frank Wolf's bill. I held all the hearings on it. Right here in this room, occasionally in 2200, but mostly in this room. The Clinton administration was very much against it, but thank God he signed it. At the very, very end, it was like, some of his advisors, I'm sure, said, this is a good thing. And there have been good ambassadors. Of course, Sam Brownback, in my opinion, is one of the best that we've ever had. And, Rabbi Saperstein was also a tremendous ambassador. We had many hearings with him during the Obama years. But during the Obama years, we did not get, for several years, recommendations for CPC. And I would say it says you got to do it, Mr. President. And, Rabbi Saperstein, I'm sure, he didn't want to cross his boss, but he was all in accord with that as well. That so we are asking the administration to send up designations for CPC. USCIRF continually makes very, very good recommendations as to who should be on it. Nigeria has been on that list time and time again. It was ignored during the Biden administration. Matter of fact, they reversed what was done vis-a-vis Nigeria to take them off. And I asked our Secretary of State under the last administration, what's the criteria? We've got Christians who are being slaughtered. And when you focus on Christians, it's never at the exclusion of everyone else or even anyone else. I've been all over Nigeria, as have many of my colleagues. I've met with many imams there. They get targeted if they're non-radical. So, it's almost like Hamas. You wonder why it's a child soldier factory, because when you're very young and being inculcated in terrorism, you then act on it, but, try fighting against it. In that closed space. Same way, and I had imams tell me, and I'm not going to name them because they'll probably be firebombed if I do, by Boko Haram and by others, that if they speak out, they will be firebombed just like the Christian churches. I went to 5 churches that were firebombed in Jos, Nigeria, with the bishop there, Kegama. And when I talked, and he was there with many of these survivors, they were targeted because they were Christians. Ditto for the Fulani. Anyone who doesn't think that, there are other mitigating or other circumstances contributing to it, but there's no doubt that there's a bias and a hatred for Christians by radical Muslims, by jihadists, not by non-radical. I've worked very closely with a number of leaders in Nigeria who were Muslims when they were at the United Nations, and they were tremendous people. One guy named Sarki, who was just a tremendous number 2 over at the embassy. We know that. But we got to call out the bad guys. And when you get Open Doors, which has itself, they have stood up for Christians all over the world, particularly in the Soviet Union. I remember working with its founder, who wrote, God's. He used to bring Bibles into the East Bloc and into the Soviet Union. You, Sam, all of us, we speak out for every one of the groups. Every single one of them, with no exception. And I resent when anybody suggests that we do otherwise, because we don't do otherwise. We believe that Christians need to be, I've had 107 congressional hearings on human rights in China. We've had them on Tibetan Buddhists. We've had them on the Falun Gong. I had the first resolution on the Falun Gong. Because we all know, and it passed in the House, because they were being targeted by the Chinese dictatorship for elimination. But we can't leave out the Christians. and that's been part of the problem. They have been left behind for far too long. There was again, this was Rabbi Saperstein, a good friend, really a tremendous leader. He went to Vietnam, and there was a pastor, Pastor Chin, who was incarcerated from 2011 to 2017. Just a tremendous pastor. His wife met with Rabbi Saperstein. She was beaten to a pulp. Very serious consequences, and she had to sign something with the Vietnamese Communist Party, renouncing it and saying that her meeting was illegal. Rabbi Saperstein told us all about it. You know, I'm trying to get Vietnam on the CPC list for years, 3 times. The Vietnam Human Rights Act, if passed, is my bill, totally bipartisan with my friends on the other side of the aisle, and always was blocked over in the U.S. Senate with a hold. But right in that, it calls for CPC designation for Vietnam. They are going, forced conversions, all the other things that they do there. I met with the top Buddhist in Saigon. I can't call it Ho Chi Minh City, in Saigon. He's under pagoda arrest. And we spent hours talking. And he said, if I walk out this door, meaning him, the Venerable Taekwondo, the police that are right across the street will go in there and they'll punch him and they'll push him back in. I mean, we've constantly, as did you when you were ambassador, Dr. Shinek, we speak out for everybody. But we can't exclude the Christians who have been targeted very, very horrifically. So I do want and hope we get that list of CPC countries yesterday. It's got to come. But again, Mark Walker, who's a pastor himself, would have been a great ambassador, and more needs to be done, no doubt about it. Finally, I did say it, but I'll say it again. I had hearings with Obama, with his people. After 3 years, we still hadn't gotten the list of CPC countries. I said, please send them up. Why aren't they here? You may disagree on who should be on the list. That's your call. But please send up a list, and they wouldn't. So we got to all do a better job. And Sam, if you could just speak again, to Mr. Ambassador, to some of the outcomes of your conference, because that is why we wanted to have this meeting, especially this hearing. Calls to action, what we need to be doing, maybe some of the missed opportunities that we need to double down on, if you could.
There was a lot of calls to action. There was some nice announcements of action. Pepperdine University announced that they're working with a series of African judicial leaders. These would be chief justices in various African countries, to come up with an alternate dispute resolution mechanism between people of faith. So to get moderate Muslims that would be willing to negotiate with Christian leaders to try to start an alternate dispute resolution process. We're going, great. That would be fabulous if we could see that work, because you're going to be in a full-scale war zone in middle of Africa before long, with militant Islam attacking the Christians that's taking place there. It has already started. It's in Nigeria. That's really what you're seeing right now. And it is Huntington's clash of civilizations that you're witnessing there right now. We just had an announcement today that'll come later today that the administration with Hungary helps, that does target particularly Christians, but not exclusively Christians, for aid in various places around the world, that there will be an announcement of the United States government joining in certain areas of ways that they can help as they, I think, start to reconstitute the aid programs and what they're going to do with it. That was just announced, took place this morning, was one that they came forward with. The other thing that I really want to draw your attention to, that everybody's behind, we've got an advocacy day today, is the transnational oppression. Virtually everybody, not everybody, everybody that was there, most of the people that were there at our summit, know somebody or they themselves have experienced transnational oppression, as Grace Jen Drexel and her family has. This is highly common anymore, and it's really something we've got to get on top of. Dr. Tang, that you would know, and a number of people, at the beginning of our conference was announced by the Vietnamese government that he is an international terrorist, and they are putting out an arrest for a warrant for his arrest. And if he travels in a country that they have agreement with, that he's to be arrested. This has to be stopped. This has to stop. And then one other thing that was coming forward, the Mexican government, in working with and too much influenced by cartels in Mexico, is threatening the Catholic Church when they help people and they lift up folks that have been missing. There are now over 100,000 people, 120,000 people officially missing in Mexico, and the church tries to help the family. And they were going to be coming here to testify, to speak about it, and the church was told not to come, not to come. And you're going, this has to stop. This has to stop.